Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. This is part 39 of the series. If you did miss the last episode, Lando Norris won his home Grand Prix not only for himself but for McLaren as well, with Sonny Hayes taking home the second position and Charles Leclerc rounded out the podium. And on our side of the garage there was no glory for the taking home win. There was only despair. We took a risk by sacrificing our qualifying to get a good setup for the wet weather predicted on Sunday, and I just got the setup completely wrong, and we couldn't generate enough tyre temperature and to take us out of our misery. I ended up getting an engine issue, and once I'd fallen outside of the points with the issue, I just called it quits and parked the car back in the pit lane to record our first DNF with McLaren. I was really hoping it would never come to this, but here we are. And so after the British Grand Prix, it's Lando Norris leading the Drivers' Championship by 11 points to the two Apex GP teammates. It's Oscar Piastri and Sonny Hayes on identical points. Then it's Max Verstappen in 4th, a further 13 points behind, and myself in 5th, a further 10 points behind Max. And Apex GP, they still lead the Constructors' Championship by 12 points to McLaren, and then it's Red Bull Ford in 3rd, a further 43 points behind. And taking a look now at the durability and looking at a major upgrade, which will be some testing on the control electronics module. And with the reliability we were facing last episode, this feels like something that needs to be looked at. Our reliability is worse of all the teams on the grid, so this feels appropriate to be reacting this way with the team to ensure that we can still have two drivers in this championship fight going forward. Apex GP will head into the Dutch Grand Prix still clearly the fastest car, but behind them Ferrari have made big gains to jump themselves ahead of us, but it is still incredibly close between Ferrari, ourselves, and Red Bull Ford. Mercedes also continue to make improvements with their car as the mid-pack battle intensifies, and Audi Sport continue to pull further ahead of Racing Bull Ford to get ever closer to joining the mid-pack battle as we now head to Zandvoort for qualifying.
Just look at that sea of orange. No surprises if I tell you we're here in Holland at Zandvoort for the Max Verstappen celebration party. It's a quick track and perfect for high speeds, high stakes qualifying. Welcome along to the Dutch Grand Prix qualifying day.
Crofty absolutely nailing it there. Absolutely. There is only one driver they expect to be on pole position today, and that is the home man himself, Max Verstappen. And this track, I say it all the time, the tracks that Formula One go to are so fun for hot lapping, and they suit these cars so well for doing a one lap, all you can do fast laps. Unfortunately, not all of them are the same for racing, and on this occasion here we made a mistake there going into the stadium section, and we are currently a little bit struggling because you can see going through that penultimate corner I'm still dropping it down to 4th gear. Usually, well, at least in the Apex car previously, a car that I've been much more comfortable driving, I'm still kind of feeling on edge in this McLaren. I'm able to still go through there in 5th gear, but dropping it down to 4th in this McLaren. And Oscar Piastri, he's fastest in Q1, and it's by a massive 6/10 ahead of George Russell. Then it's Doohan in 3rd. He's 1.2 seconds behind. Norris in 8th. Myself in 12th. And we're only 2/10 behind our teammate. But knocked out in qualifying 1 is Gabriel Bortoleto by 400ths. And then it's Lance Stroll, Carlos Sainz. Oliver Behrman will be disappointed with a 20th since his teammate is in 3rd. Isaac Hadjar and Nico Hulkenberg out in qualifying. So it's both Audi Sports not making it into Q2 here, and we're on a flying lap here. Well, starting our flying lap, and you'll see that Lando Norris goes fastest, but he also had a tow from us. So McLaren have timed it, so then as I'm starting my fast lap, Lando will be ending his. So we've effectively given our teammate an extra little tow going down the main straight here to give him that boost in qualifying. And where's my help? I'm not getting any help here in qualifying. And with that, Lando Norris, he's in 3rd. Verstappen is fastest by 2/10 to Charles Leclerc. So that tow absolutely helped Lando get himself up inside that top 3. I'm 8th in the end, 4/10 behind Lando. And knocked down in qualifying 2 is Kimi Antonelli by 3/10. Alex Albon, Fernando Alonso, Jack Doohan, who was 3rd in qualifying 1, is knocked out in this session. Paul Aaron, who makes it both the Aston Martin Hondas knocked out, and Liam Lawson will line up in tomorrow's Grand Prix in 16th position, so pretty disappointing there for the Kiwi driver. And we've got 2 sets of tyres available to us because we only needed that 1 lap in qualifying 2, so the first lap was not great, put us in P8. We've been knocked down to P9 as it stands. Can this lap be any better? We improved by 3.5 tenths, and it is still a P9. Damn, that is very disappointing. Max Verstappen's on pole position though, so the only man they expected to be on pole position is on pole in front of his home ground, but it's less than a tenth to Sonny Hayes, and it's Lando in third, 2 tenths behind, with a fellow Brit of Lewis Hamilton alongside him. And yeah, exactly 1 second off the pace is very disappointing for myself.
Welcome along then to the North Sea coast and to the Zandvoort circuit. We're 25 miles away from Amsterdam for today's Dutch Grand Prix. It's a race the great Jim Clark won on 4 occasions, leading for an astonishing total of 370 laps. Zandvoort circuit then, 14 corners, 10 to the right and 4 to the left, with plenty of steep camber and elevation changes to keep our drivers on their toes throughout the 2.6 mile lap. And watch out for cars making use of the DRS zone into turn 1 to attempt an overtake. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and Sonny Hayes completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Hamilton, Oscar Piastri and Leclerc, Russell, Colapinto, Pearce and Pierre Gasly, Antonelli, Albon, Fernando Alonso, Doohan, Aaron, Lawson, Gabriel Bortoleto and Lance Stroll, Sainz, Behrman, Hadjar and Nico Hülkenberg rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. And joining me in the commentary box once again, Naomi Schiff. Hi, Gnomes. Now, Ant, I could go on for hours, and I probably will, about the atmosphere here today, the sea of orange, this Dutch Formula One festival. But once you're in the cockpit, once the visor's down, what are the challenges for the driver?
Well, what an incredible circuit. It feels just like a roller coaster. This track has some extreme banking that if you walk the track, you almost feel like you're horizontal. It also has some blind corners, so make sure you're not looking at the nose of your car and that you're looking far ahead. And if you look far enough past the Orange Army, you might even spot the beach.
Okay, let's have a comms check, please. Radio check. Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
So for the first time in a while, it is the 2-stop is going to be the recommended strategy for us, and it's going to be a double stint on the mediums and then finish on the hard compound tyres. So it looks like the tyre wear is going to be up. The sun is blazing here in the Netherlands. So what will this race hold for us as we are away? Colapinto, he's on the soft compound tyres, so he's going to have an absolute ripper start, and look at him thread the needle between Leclerc and George Russell. We're immediately told that we've got a worn engine, which is exactly not what we need to be hearing as we're halfway through Turn 1 with 20 other Formula 1 cars hanging around us, and Leclerc makes contact with Colapinto. That upsets the car, and you can see that a little bit of front wing damage as well on the Ferrari there. So we swing it around the outside going through that banked corner, very fun banked corner, and we now look to George Russell using a bit of ERS. We try and go down the inside of this very fast right-hander. I was thinking maybe I might be able to send a move down the inside while he's stuck behind Colapinto. Unfortunately though, it was a bit too audacious. Looking back at it, that was very, very audacious, and no surprise there that Charles Leclerc was able to get back up alongside us. In the end, though, we do hold on to that 8th position there, so we're up from where we started, which is a positive. But for our teammate, so we've made up a position. He is losing a position as he now falls back behind Oscar Piastri. He's going to be on a charge to try and catch himself up to Max Verstappen, who absolutely bolted away from the line. He's got a 2-second lead ahead of the Apex GP car. The other Apex car now up into 3rd, passing our teammate. So our teammate's gone from a 2nd position, fallen all the way off to the podium. Now Apex GP lines up in 2nd, 3rd, of Piastri ahead of his teammate Sonny Hayes. Piastri is closing down that gap. It's now 1.6 seconds, and so that's a 4/10th gain since we last checked in. Colapinto, though, we're expecting him to try and make his way through the field here because he is on those soft compound tyres, so he should have the pace here. But if it is going to be high tyre wear around this Dutch Grand Prix circuit, I am expecting those softs to fall off very quickly. At the moment, he's tucked up behind Lewis Hamilton, so that's not going to be helping the tyre temperatures whatsoever. We're still stuck behind George Russell trying to see if we can't get ourselves ahead of him. And it's Fernando Alonso who brought out that yellow flag that briefly popped up on our screen because he has got an engine failure. It's going up in a big cloud of smoke, and it's a very, very awkward spot to be having a engine let go or any sort of mechanical failure in the end, because he has to dodge and weave between the field coming through, and that is the Spaniards' day done as we get our first objective of the Grand Prix, and it's for us to try and stay ahead of Charles Leclerc behind us, who we had that really good battle on the opening lap there with going side by side for a couple of corners after he made contact with Franco Colapinto. And I spoke just a few laps ago of Colapinto's tyres probably starting to fall away, and here is George Russell on the mediums trying to go around the outside, a big heap of opposite lock, and the opposite lock continues on the exit, and that is going to ruin the run, and he is not going to be able to make a move around the outside of Colapinto. We try and look around the outside of George Russell, and have we got ourselves the run? We do have the run. We're using the battery, and we now go down the inside of this S section, down the back of the circuit, and we will sweep around the outside, and that is move done on George Russell. Get ourselves up into 7th position. So now we need to try and dispatch Franco Colapinto very quickly, because we've seen now what can happen if you try and make a move around here and there's a car tucked up right behind you, and it's not going to end well, as Piastri, he's now trying to take the lead away from Max Verstappen. So he's definitely got the pace over Max at the moment, because he's been able to pull in at that 2-second lead that Max Verstappen had over Oscar Piastri at the end of that first lap. So Verstappen Piastri now 7 seconds ahead of Sonny Hayes. So the top two definitely in an absolute league of their own, pulling away from the rest of the field. That gap is now 8 seconds as we go on to lap 11. Piastri once again looking to the outside of Verstappen here. It is an absolute battle here for the ages in front of the Dutch fans here, and it is Piastri who takes away the lead from the home favourite, and he will move into first. Max down to second. We get our first pit window opening up now, going on to lap 11, and we will be boxing this lap. We also complete the objective to stay ahead of Charles Leclerc, which definitely became much more easier once we put George Russell between ourselves, and we're now stuck behind Hamilton. So Colapinto, he got out of the way. You may have seen briefly on one of the other camera angles there that he did come into the lane. He started falling down the totem pole as he made his pit stop. He currently is in 18th position, stuck behind the Haas of Oliver Behrman, as now the leaders are in the lane. What tyre will be they going on to? They're stopping early enough for it to be a two-stop for the entire field. We've now come into the lane as well, and we've got quite the train of George Russell and Charles Leclerc right behind us. It's a good turn in, but we're being held up by a couple of cars and coming into the lane, so that's not going to help us at all. It's a 2.3 second pit stop, so it's a good pit stop. We're just slow exiting the lane. And is that Leclerc? Leclerc has jumped George Russell, so is it going to be a battle between us and Leclerc for whatever position we end up finding ourselves in? Because with the fact that the first objective was to do with Charles Leclerc, it does make me start to believe that maybe that is where our pace is. That's where we need to be trying to focus our battle, and it is with the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. It's now Sonny Hayes, who did inherit the race lead by staying out a couple of laps extra. He now comes into the lane. So Verstappen, he's been able to jump Piastri through the pit sequence here. We've missed that because Verstappen is now up into first. Piastri's down into second. So there's been a change for the lead through the pit stop cycle. Lance Stroll is currently in third, but we're going to ignore that for now because he is going long. So I would imagine Stroll could possibly be trying to be the only driver to go for a one-stop here in today's Grand Prix. Piastri, though, he's not waiting too long at all to try and take this lead away, and that is exactly what he's going to do. Around the outside at turn 1, gives him the inside from the next corner, and he will sweep across the nose of Max Verstappen to get himself into the lead of the Grand Prix. Verstappen's into second. Leclerc, he gets himself up into 6th now, using that DRS to get himself ahead of ourselves. We get a little bit all wild on the exit there of turn 1, which doesn't help our case out. So Leclerc is safe for the moment. He's already pulled out half a second over ourselves after getting that move done and dusted. The other Alpine, though, of Pierre Gasly does look like it's got genuine car pace at the moment, because it is battling Lewis Hamilton, the Ferrari versus an Alpine, and definitely not something I was expecting to see in today's Grand Prix. And tucked up right behind them is the Williams of Alex Albon. So we've got a very mixed field here, and I guess we did see that in qualifying 1, if you recall, there with a Haas inside the top 3 of that qualifying session. So we've got a chance here to see some very different names inside the top 10 scoring big points for the bottom end teams. And you could see there as well, we got our new strategy, actually, it was a new race objective to save some fuel because we are using quite a bit here to try and stay with Charles Leclerc. Franco Colapinto's got himself by us as well, so we've fallen down into 7th position, but that was just due to the way the pit stops worked out, and we are going to amend that now by getting ourselves back ahead of Colapinto in that Red Bull Ford, and we move up into 6th position. Colapinto drops to 7th, and we can now focus again to Charles Leclerc, and the high tyre wear here is definitely playing a part here because we've got a new strategy to come in a little bit earlier than expected. So the initial plan was lap 22, and the new strategy claims for lap 21. So we're going to actually take that in the hope that maybe jumping on that lap earlier, we might try, and if we can stay with Charles Leclerc, that one lap on those newer tyres could prove big for us, and we could try and get ourselves an undercut here and stay ahead of Charles Leclerc. We're going to do an order check now. So it's Piastri leading the way of Max Verstappen, and the first and second absolutely gone 8 seconds ahead of Sonny Hayes in 3rd. Then it's Norris, Leclerc, myself in 6th, Colapinto, George Russell, Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton rounds out the points. Then Alex Albon, Kimi Antonelli, Paul Aaron, Carlos Sainz, Gabriel Bortoleto, Jack Doohan, Nico Hulkenberg, Lance Stroll, Liam Lawson, Oliver Behrman, who was last on the road and 18 seconds behind. And during all the pit stop phase, completely forgot to mention it, Isaac Hadjar also dropped out of this Grand Prix. He also had an engine failure, and he came to a stop in actually not too far away from where Fernando Alonso came to a stop, so tends to be the safest spot to pull away if you do have an issue around this circuit. As for ourselves though, we're going to cross the line to save enough fuel, so it looks like we've got alright pace, but that alright pace while saving fuel does mean that we've now lost 2 seconds to Charles Leclerc. So if we do box this one lap earlier, which we will now, it's not looking as likely that I think we're going to be able to, well, now it's going to be 3 seconds we'll have to undercut him by, and it's also going to be a late turn in, so it's going to be a slow pit stop for ourselves. It was expected to be a 3.2, it is a 3.2, but it should have been like a 2.3, 2.4, but that was just a mistake of my end, just pressing the button too late to turn the car in, so we weren't on the right angle, we stopped too far in. Whatever it was has caused the pit crew to be put off guard a little bit there, and it's caused a slow pit stop. The guy that we are battling though, Charles Leclerc, so this is going to be big. This is going to determine whether if boxing this lap early is going to play a role in our battle with this Ferrari. It's a slowish stop for the Ferrari, and they get held up by a couple of cars coming into the lane as well, which is not going to help him out. And so where is he going to filter out into the racetrack here? So Jack Doohan goes by in the Haas. He's not in our battle. And it looks like Stroll in the Alpine, he's going to go by as well. But he's off strategy. So he's gone long in the first stint, and he's going to go long in the second stint. So maybe he might be able to hold up Charles Leclerc for us, and look at that, he's already doing it. He's backing Charles Leclerc up into ourselves here, and that is going to help us out because with our slow stop, we haven't been able to close as much ground as we really would have. It was about 2 seconds that we did gain on him, so there was a gain, but again, if those mistakes weren't made, it could be a whole different story. As now the race leaders are in the lane as well, so all the pit stops are happening now. Piastri is in, Max Verstappen is in. It was a slow stop from the Apex crew there, but Piastri, he still holds on to that lead just ahead of Max Verstappen, so absolutely crucial that he can stay ahead there because he's definitely got the pace to stay ahead of Max, and Max Verstappen does not have the pace to stay ahead of Oscar. So it is definitely looking like it's starting to become Oscar's race to lose here, as Hayes, his teammate, is now in the lane. So once again, stays out a little bit longer, filters into the lead of the Grand Prix, and he'll come into the lane, and he'll probably filter out into third because there is a big juicy 13-second gap between Verstappen and Alex Albon, which Sonny could fool himself into, and that is exactly what is going to happen. Hayes will hold on to that third position, and you would have seen there as well that we got a new strategy there to try and overtake Charles Leclerc. So Mark is kind of wanting us now to get on with it and to get ourselves ahead of that Ferrari, and for the rest of the field, so Piastri leads the way by Max Verstappen, but it's not by much, and then it's Sonny Hayes rounding out the podium. Our teammate Norris ahead of Charles Leclerc, then it's ourselves trying to chase down the Monegasque, and then it's George Russell, Colapinto, Gasly, and Albon rounding out the points. Lewis Hamilton, Antonelli, Bortoleto, Sainz, Aaron, Lawson, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Jack Doohan, and Oliver Behrman is now 30 seconds away from his teammate, who is in 19th position. So it's going to be an absolute horrid day at the office for the Haas Toyota team, and for ourselves, our day is not going too much better either, because we have not been able to overtake Charles Leclerc. So we failed that objective. And if anything, Leclerc's actually pulled away because we were sitting in his DRS for a while, and that has now bloated out to a 3-second gap. And it's so much so that George Russell has been able to get himself by us. We tried to see if we can't put him off by showing the nose back down the inside. Unfortunately, though, I think we are starting to face the consequences of coming in that lap early, because the tyres are now feeling pretty shocking. But Max Verstappen, he's looked after his tyres beautifully, because he's now looking for a late race attack on Oscar Piastri. Is he going to be able to make the move down the inside? No, he can't. Piastri holds on, but we've got a late race battle here for the win of the Dutch Grand Prix between the Australian and the Dutchman. Further behind, though, Alex Albon is trying to get by the other Red Bull Ford of Franco Colapinto, and it is Albon who's able to get himself now up into 9th position. Colapinto will fall down to 10th, only claiming the 1 point in this race as we now start the final lap of the Grand Prix. Our pace has dropped off so much that George Russell's not even in the picture anymore. He's 3 seconds up the road. We're defending from Pierre Gasly in the Alpine Mercedes, the pink Alpine, and it is going to be a battle right down to the end. Piastri, he still holds onto Max Verstappen. It is going to come right down to the wire of this Grand Prix. We've seen a battle of the Titans. We've got a future world champion in the making of Oscar Piastri, driving for Apex GP, who looks like he can hold off the 5-time world champion Max Verstappen at his home turf. Piastri wins the Dutch Grand Prix ahead of Verstappen. His teammate Sonny Hayes in 3rd. Apex GP will be delighted with a double podium. Our teammate will cross the line in 4th, but for ourselves, it is far from over, because we have got Gasly absolutely hounding us, and he's brought Alex Albon into this battle as well, and not too long, Franco Colapinto will be in this one as well, and it will be a battle for the final 4 points paying positions. We need to have a good run out here. We've been trying to save a bit of battery. Our tyres are absolutely dead. They're in the red, and it is going to be all the way down to the line, and no! I think Gasly may have just got us, because the steering wheel says 8th. It is 8th. Oh no, Gasly got us right at the line. He got us right at the line. How close was that going to be? On board with Gasly here. We squeezed him right out to the wall in the hope that we can deter him from trying to get in there. And I think, oh no, that is going to be so close. I don't even think that's going to be 100th. That's going to be like thousandths of a second there that Gasly is going to get us. That is ridiculously close to finish off this race, and it is just so close that you can't even measure this.
Oscar Piastri, take a bow. What a performance, what a win.
Yes, it absolutely was, and what an incredible victory and an important milestone for them as we head into the business end of the season. You know that's really going to matter from a confidence perspective to get them to the end of the season with potentially even more of these victories.
From lights out to the checkered flag, this is what they're racing for. It's points and a trip to the podium. And your winner today, the man from down under. Congratulations, Oscar Piastri.
What a finish we have just witnessed for this Grand Prix, with Piastri claiming the victory ahead of Max Verstappen. Max will say that this second place today will probably be tasting a little bit sour, because Hayes is going to also make it a double Apex GP podium. And Verstappen, you could have said, also was running away with it. After the first lap, he had a 2-second lead, and in the end, will miss out by only a couple of tenths of a second. And for ourselves, it's a real drop in form that I am not enjoying, and I need to fix it ASAP. For the rest of the top 10, it's Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Pierre Gasly, who ended up being only 7 thousandths ahead of myself. Alex Albon and Colapinto will round out the points, and Isaac Hadjar and Fernando Alonso were the non-finishes in today's Grand Prix, and Oliver Behrman was a lap down. We saw it was a bad day in the office for Haas, and a lap down is pretty bad. Oscar Piastri leads the Drivers' Championship by only 2 points to Lando Norris. Hayes is in 3rd, 8 points further behind. Myself in 6th, 2 points behind Charles Leclerc. Apex GP leads the Constructors' Championship by 36 points to McLaren. Red Bull Ford in 3rd, only 40 points further behind us. And for the driver ratings, everything has gained points except for the Focus, which now drops to a level 87 for an overall driver rating of level 91. Our driver recognition has now dropped to 50% against Lando. And with the current form that I'm on, I am not surprised that it's only just started swinging in favour of Lando Norris. It's only a matter of time. It was going to do that. And that is going to be all for this episode. So if you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and subscribe. And for the next one, we head to the Temple of Speed, Ferrari's home race. It is going to be the Italian Grand Prix. I'll see you then.